Welcome into Mock Trial Masterclass, your guide to controlling the courtroom. I'm Luke and I want you to be a mock trial master. Let's talk about how you can make that happen. If you've ever competed in mock trial as an attorney before, you've been asked this question by a judge. Would you like to redirect this witness? So you've done your initial direct examination. The other side has come up and cross-examined your witness. Now the judge is asking, would you like to ask some more questions to the witness in a redirect examination? Oftentimes, the answer to that question should be no. Why? Well, in this video, we're going to go over some of the reasons why redirect might not always be quite so good of an idea. Now, there are times when redirect is necessary, and we'll talk about that too at the end, but know for right now that most of the time, redirect isn't a good idea. Let's talk about why. There are really three big reasons why redirect examinations can be problematic. And the first of them is that oftentimes they devolve into the attorney asking leading questions. On direct examination, only open-ended questions are allowed. Questions usually that start with who, what, when, why, how. Right? Questions like that open end, that leave room for the witness to answer and explain. You can't, on direct examination, ask leading questions that suggest an answer, like you went outside that day, right? You passed by the supermarket or whatever. But on redirect examination, for whatever reason, attorneys all the time will stand up to give their redirect examination and launch into a long series of leading questions. It typically gets an objection, the objection gets sustained, and then the attorney is standing there stuck, realizing that they shouldn't have done this redirect examination to begin with. So if you do a redirect in one of the situations where it is a good idea that we'll talk about a little bit later, make sure that you don't use leading questions. But 9 times out of 10, redirect examination is nothing but leading questions. And by the way, if you're going to trial and the other side does redirect examination, listen, because chances are they're going to ask leading questions and you'll be able to make an objection. There's another objection you'll be able to make too most of the time, and that's what we're going to talk about next. The second reason you typically want to avoid redirect is that most of the time, redirect examinations are cumulative. In other words, redirect examination is covering, most of the time, material that has already been covered. Here's what that usually looks like. I'm directing an expert witness, they offer their opinion. The crossing attorney gets up, attacks their opinion through cross-examination, as they're supposed to. And then I get back up on redirect. I go to the witness and I say, one more time, Dr. Whoever, what was your ultimate best super opinion about this case? Chances are the guy has already, or the girl has already given their opinion about the case. I'm just trying to re-emphasize it and let the jury hear me as the last word as opposed to my opponent having the last word. But if you get an asked and answered objection or a needlessly cumulative objection when you're doing that and the judge sustains it, you're going to be stuck. So if you do choose to redirect, please think through your questions beforehand and ask, am I just covering stuff that's already been covered for the sole purpose of re-emphasizing it? Or is this crucial new material? If it's not crucial new material, stay seated. No further questions. Before we get into the third reason that redirect examinations are usually a problem, I want to remind you that you can schedule coaching with me. It'll be super fun, I promise. We'll spend time on a Zoom call, whether that's me and you and a teammate, or me and you and your entire team going over whatever it is you want to go over. I can listen to a speech or a cross or a direct and provide feedback in the moment. We can brainstorm on themes or anything else related to your case theory. Or I can teach on an area of mock trial that you'd like to know more about. Whatever it is you want to do, I would be happy to do it for you. So if you want to schedule coaching, click the link in the description on YouTube or in the show notes on podcast platforms. The third reason that redirect examination can be problematic is that it sometimes makes it look like you're scrambling. Think of the difference between these two scenarios. Cross-examination happens, they bring up some bad points about your person, your witness, and then you get up and you start going, well, they ask you questions about this. Well, what's the real explanation for that? And well, they asked you about this area. Well, why don't you tell us what was really going on with that? Versus the cross-examination happens. The judge says, would you like a redirect examination? And you just stand up and you say, no redirect, Your Honor. Which approach makes your witness look better? I would argue that it's the second approach. See, sometimes we get so caught up in the case that we want to defend everything and we want to argue everything, when really what the better option would be to look the judge and the jury in the eye and say, nope, we took care of it already. That wasn't that big of a deal. All good. You see how powerful that can be? Sometimes the best way to control the courtroom is to say nothing at all. And in the case of redirect examination, that's often the approach you should take, because again, most of the time, redirect examination devolves into leading questions, questions that have already been asked, or questions that don't need to be asked because it makes it look like you're scrambling and trying to get away from a brutal cross-examination. So when should you redirect? Because I've said a few times, there are moments where redirect can be okay. Well, there's really two scenarios where you should redirect. Situation number one is if it is planned. There have been times where, for strategic reasons, I have gone into a tournament, either back when I competed or with my teams that I coach, and had a planned redirect where we said, okay, no matter what happens, after the cross, we're going to get back up and ask these few questions for this specific reason. And oftentimes, or really all the time, when you've planned it like that, the chances of asking leading and cumulative questions go away. And so that's more than fine if you want to do that for maybe one witness that you call. Good idea. Can work and be really effective. The other time that redirect is okay is if you're clearing up something that was confusing. Not clearing up a good point that the other side made. You're not trying to run away from something. It's if something was confusing during cross-examination and your witness needs an opportunity to explain. Also, if your witness gets cut off during cross-examination and you want them to have a chance to explain whatever question it was, redirect is fine for that too. But unless your redirect fits one of those two areas where it was planned before the tournament and your coaches have worked on it with you, or you're clearing something up, giving your witness a chance to explain, if it's not one of those two, you should just stay seated. Because redirect is a problem more often than not. It's running the clock, and a lot of times your score's not going to go up one way or the other. So it's usually best with redirect to pass. That's what mock trial masters do, and since you're going to be a mock trial master, since that's what you want to be, most of the time you should pass on redirect too.